interesting, had a kind of interesting conversation the other day with somebody. They come over to buy something that I had posted for sale. And he had brought a gentleman with him that was from Israel. And I noticed the guy's accent. I was like, hey, where are you from? He's like, Israel. I'm like, what do you think about everything that's going on over here? He's like, oh, you guys have these kind of problems over there where government's trying to control everybody? He said, oh, no, we carry around big effing machine guns. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. The guy that was with him, though, the guy that was buying what I was selling, the first thing he says going into this conversation is, there's effing idiots that want to defund the police. It's like, yeah, what about those idiots? People, when I told him that I was, I'm 100% for abolishing the police. And I even went as far, I went into pretty great details to tell him why and give him the specifics and the evidence as to why the police forces are unconstitutional. And I even asked him the simplest question that anybody can ask themselves to prove it to themselves. How are you free if one person or group has complete authority over you, especially when government has control of that group? I don't commit crimes. I told him, I said, no, you're not paying attention to the question. Just because you don't commit a crime doesn't mean the police don't have authority over you. They still have that authority. They just haven't used it yet. And they can use it at any time. At one time, the redcoats weren't kicking in doors on people's homes. They probably were, but they eventually just started doing it. It starts here, and then when you let them get away with that, then it goes to here. You let it get away with that, and it goes to here, and it's so on and on and on. But government it controls it. We can blame the politicians from here until the end of time. The truth is, without the enforcement, the bad policies wouldn't matter. I also asked, I asked him, well, he asked me actually, I'm sorry. So, what happens if we abolish the police forces? I said, well, at that point, I would think, maybe I'm wrong, could be wrong, but it would be total chaos. And I admit that. It would be. Hopefully, though, the people would stop paying federal taxes. The federal government would shrink. I'm sure there'd be a war in there somewhere. And whoever makes it out alive lives happy. And the only problem that people have with that scenario is that they're not guaranteed to be the one alive. It's because they're unwilling to sacrifice. Like, my life is meaningless in the big scheme of things. It means something to me. It means something to my kids. But what means more to my kids? My life or my kids' rights? I mean, if I had to die today to ensure their rights for their entire life, would I do it? Hell yeah. Wouldn't think twice about it. And the problem is people have become too... they think that their life is too important. It's too important to them. It's a selfishness thing, I guess. Or maybe a selflessness thing. They're not selfless enough. And people aren't. Today's selflessness doesn't exist in our country as a whole. But we had talked, we talked for a little while. We didn't get anywhere, of course. People that believe that their vote counts, it's kind of hard. You can't just convince them in one chat. You have to show them over time. An example of this is a buddy of mine. My friends don't watch my YouTube channel. They all know about it, but they don't watch it. I guess that they got to hear enough from me when I'm around in life. But he called me this morning, asking me some questions about something he had seen 3 months ago. He was a hardcore Trump supporter. And I just kept showing him the facts and showing him the facts and showing him the facts. And he sees it now. He sees that there's no difference. What right or left, you're going to get the same. You're going to get the exact same outcome. They just have a different way of spinning it to you so that you agree with it. The fact is that good or bad, if it benefits me or works against me, we have our Constitution that restricts our government. Our government needs to operate within those restrictions. When it doesn't, in any manner at all, even if it's the smallest amount that steps outside those lanes, that government is tyrannical. At which point, the people need to apply force and check that government. The problem is that we don't apply force, and that falls back onto being selfish. In my life means more than, my life means so much that I can't sacrifice it or my freedom in order to ensure the next man's rights or my children's rights or my family's rights, or for even freedom for that matter. And people don't understand basic definitions. So when you have conversations like that, you need to first have a conversation about definitions and create a foundation so that both parties in the conversation know what's being said. I hope that makes sense. But, with the elections in a week or two, 2 weeks, week and a half, I don't know, 14 days, something like that. What do I see happening after the election? Well, I personally think that they're going to give Biden the office. Notice I said give and say he was going to win. At which point, shortly after, something will happen. The 25th Amendment will be invoked, and Kamala Harris will then take over. And then it's all downhill super quick from there. The right does nothing. Well, they're going to bitch and say, oh, it was voter fraud and all that bullshit, but nothing will happen. They're not going to do anything. Or Trump wins, the left does the same thing, and we've already allowed them, not we as in the government, sorry about the shaking camera, we as in the people have already allowed them to riot, loot, rob, and murder. So that's what they'll do. And the right, or the people that are pro-freedom, pro-constitution, however you want to say it, I try to separate those two groups because you can't align with the party, the right, when speaking of government, and also be pro-constitution. I mean, you just can't, in my mind. Maybe I could be wrong, but whatever. If that was to happen, we've already allowed them to, like I said, riot, rob, and loot, and it's just going to go, that's what's going to happen. You, me, everybody that's on the right, the people that are pro-constitution, pro-freedom, are all have fear instilled in them from the police forces. The police forces have instilled fear in us. Hey, you can't protect your business because if you do, we're going to put you in jail. Hey, you can't protect your life because if you do, we're going to put you in jail. So let them burn your business to the ground. Let them kill you. And that's what will happen. And it'll be total chaos for a little while. I think this probably the more probable scenario is that Trump will win. It'll all get chaotic. It'll be a reason for them to further militarize the police forces, which is restricting your liberties more, restricting your rights more, restricting your freedom more. And it's just, the show goes on. Nothing changes. It's not going to change until we change it. Until, we seriously take a stand. We're done. We're not dealing with your bullshit no more. We don't care about none of this shit. Stay away from us. We want to be left alone. If we're not going to be left alone, we're going to, rain fire down on your asses. But I live in a pretty Biden community, might I say. I haven't seen no Trump signs. There's a few Biden signs. And it's not because that there's a difference in Trump or Biden. It's the narrative. It's the whole Trump's a racist. Well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I haven't seen any evidence to prove that he's a racist, but maybe he is. And if he is, show me that evidence, and I'll stand with you, and we'll try to fight against that. Ignorance is what's causing all this. People are just ignorant. They're ignorant of our founding documents. They're ignorant of basic definitions. They're ignorant of the truth. They're ignorant of the verifiable facts. The .gov sites have a lot of information there. I had somebody tell me yesterday, I'm sorry, that I was crazy because I thought Trump was a socialist. I'm sorry. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to argue with you. Go look at that $6.2 trillion socialist bill Trump signed and tell me how socialist he's not. And they just, they don't get it. That wasn't a socialist bill. That was a stimulus bill. No, that was a socialist bill. That's what it was. Now really go look at it. Out of $6.2 trillion. Think about that number. $6.2 trillion. 380 billion is what the people got. But the people had to pay it all back. $5.8 trillion went to big business. That's an astronomical amount of money. I mean, astronomical. But people justify it and they don't see it. They're so polarized that they don't even care to know the facts. It's about their truth, not about the truth. And nobody's going to wake up. I don't see anybody waking up. Do I think we can change it? Possibly. But it would take an act of God, a literal act of God. Now, we may be able to do something. We may be able to, I don't know. I don't really want to say what we may be able to do. You know, YouTube's on the, I'm not going into that. But you guys have a good day. And you should be practicing right now. Things could get bad here in a couple of weeks. Maybe where you live, if you live in an urban area, you know, be ready, be on guard. Don't go anywhere if you're not armed. Anywhere. I don't care if you're taking whatever you do, make sure you're armed. You know, just make sure you're armed. Have a good day, guys.